On June 8th, 2024, Israeli Special Forces pulled off one of the most complex and high-risk hostage rescue missions I've ever seen. And I can say I've seen it because they released the body cam footage of the operation, and I'm telling you guys, if you have not seen this footage yet, buckle up because it is wild. It's currently being reported that over 270 people were killed during this one hostage rescue operation. The goal of this operation was to bring home 4 Israeli citizens who had been kidnapped at the music festival during the October 7th attack. These 4 people had been held captive in Gaza for 246 days at this point, and their families had no clue where they were or if they'd ever see them again. But thanks to the combined effort of the Israeli and American intelligence community, they were able to pinpoint exactly where the hostages were being held. It was tricky because the terrorists were regularly moving the hostages to different locations around Gaza to make it harder for the IDF to find them. The terrorists would pay the families that owned the houses to let them hold the hostages in their homes, which of course made it incredibly difficult for the IDF to rescue the hostages without risking the lives of the families that lived in the houses. But once they located the hostages, the operation, nicknamed Seeds of Summer, was quickly handed over to the Israeli Special Operations Unit called Yamam. Yamam was the perfect unit for any and all hostage rescue missions because it's their specialty. In fact, that's the whole reason the unit was created in the first place. Way back in 1974, Israeli military forces failed to rescue hostages taken by a Palestinian terrorist group, which led to the creation of a unit that specialized in hostage rescue, and we now know of that unit as Yamam. In the days leading up to the operation, the IDF launched a separate large-scale operation to the southeast of where the hostages were being held as a distraction to move terrorist forces away from the hostages. And on top of that, all the previous hostage rescue missions had taken place at night, but this one was going to be done in broad daylight because the terrorists would never see it coming. The hostages were being held in 2 separate tall buildings about 200 meters apart. They put 3 hostages together in one house and 1 hostage on his own in a separate house. The targets would have to be hit at the exact same time because the terrorists would likely terminate the hostages if they knew there was a rescue operation going down next door. At about 11 o'clock in the morning on June 8th, 2024, the operators infilled to the target location via armored vehicles and quickly hit both houses at the same time. The first building, which housed the lone hostage on his own, was cleared very easily. He had only a few guards watching him, and they were quickly eliminated by the operators, and the hostage was rescued. At the second building, however, a major gunfight broke out as soon as they made entry to the building, and Chief Inspector Arnon, the commander of the team at the second building, was critically wounded while attempting to save the hostages. Despite their commander being down, the operators were still able to quickly take out all the terrorists in the building without wounding any hostages. The team then quickly loaded the hostages and their wounded commander in their armored vehicle for extraction. And unfortunately, this is where things took a turn for the worst. Before they could get out of Gaza, their vehicle was ambushed by a massive enemy force who had set up a roadblock on their route to get out of Gaza. The operators quickly found themselves completely surrounded and pinned down with nowhere to go. The enemy was hitting them with small arms fire and RPGs. To make matters worse, the enemy had decided to ambush them in a heavily populated area full of civilians, which were now stuck in the middle of the mother of all gunfights. The operators were holding their own, but they knew they weren't going to last much longer without help. Thankfully, another IDF unit with armored vehicles in the area was able to quickly reach them and join the fight. And shortly after that, IDF close air support arrived and began thinning out the enemy numbers. The terrorists tried several times to take out the Israeli air support with RPGs, but they missed every single shot. And it wasn't long until the few enemy soldiers still breathing fled from the area. allowing the operators to load back up and get out of Gaza. All 4 hostages were then reunited with their families safe and sound back in Israel. Unfortunately though, Chief Inspector Arnon passed away due to his wounds. He selflessly gave his life so that the hostages could come back home, and he will forever be remembered as the hero he was. In fact, shortly after the success of Operation Seeds of Summer, they changed its name to Operation Arnon to honor the commander who gave his life to save the hostages. Not long after the hostage rescue mission, an IDF commander made this statement to the families still missing their loved ones. "You should know that we will not rest until we fulfill our mission to bring all of our hostages back home. We will pursue the return of our hostages through all means possible." I repeat, through all means possible.